you ever do that thing where a song is playing and then you're really into singing it and someone changes it or turns the volume down and then you are still singing when there's no song anymore and you just kind of feel like an idiot? You know what I'm talking about?
Or I got a different version of that.
Okay.
How about when you're driving to Guelph to watch your son play? Because you do it 20 times a day or 20 times a week. And your wife's on her phone and she's looking at stuff. So I put on my music just to get through, like, enjoy my music. And then she has something to say and she turns my music on right when I'm singing or when I'm right into a tune. And I look at her and I go, Yeah.
It sounds like
just play the song.
It just sounds like a different problem you're having.
Yeah. And then I crank it back out. She goes, just a second. Then I want to stop the car and throw her out and go to golf all by myself.
That's a big part of the car rides, though, is the tunes.
100%.
The tunes, well, number one, the person in the car ride can make or break the car ride.
100%.
But tunes would be a close second. You get good tunes. So if you're not having like a good conversation or whatever on a long drive, then good tunes is key.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right about having a good person. Like if you go with the right person, and my wife is actually really good because we do a lot of talking. A lot of times 2.5 hour rides seem like they're half an hour. So not cutting her up, kind of.
Just about the tunes.
Just about the tunes. Sometimes when I get in a tune, you have to recognize my body language and notice that this is a song that I actually want to hear.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Same with my Christine. I'll speak on behalf of both of us, but for me at least, we love the car rides because good talks, good tunes, and I enjoy that they're long. I find a lot of people they have this thing where they don't want to stop ever. They're in a rush. They got to get to where they're going. They never want to stop.
They take a lot of pride in it.
I'll hold my pee as long as possible.
Yeah.
To not have to stop.
So much pride in that, eh?
It's like, what are we rushing for?
Well, you remember the time we drove, so anybody that doesn't understand where Southern Ontario is, me and you went to Brantford one time, which is a 2.5 hour drive. And then me, you, and Dalton. Were you there that time?
I wasn't there that time. It was just
me and Dalton went up. So people really don't understand when you get up in the morning, have a coffee, work out, and you drink 2 liters of water, that you're kind of set the tone for the day. So we went to Brantford, you and I, that one day.
We're talking about pee again?
Yeah. And we stopped 9 times.
Yeah, we did.
On the way to Brantford.
It was true.
Pee.
Yeah, it was true.
Yeah. And so I have no issues with stopping.
Right. But I don't understand why people have such a problem stop. Like, we can't stop.
I know.
It's like, what do you mean? It's like, what if you just want, even if you don't have to pee, even if you just want to stand up for 34 seconds, like, it's fine. Why? Like, I don't get it. So all the time, like when Christine and I started going on trips, places, or whatever, I always say that. I was like, leave so that we have enough time that we can stop every single stop if we want to just get up. Like,
well, if you're doing a cross-country tour and you have to stop every 30 seconds, then maybe hold it. Don't drink so much.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, you got a 2-hour drive and you just stop 2-3 times. Who actually cares?
Yeah. Enjoy the drive is my point. Right? Enjoy the.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're rushing to get there all the time. And you know how uncomfortable it is to hold your pee?
Yes.
It's like, I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna wait 80 kilometers to the next en route.
No.
Just for the sake of not stopping right now. It's like, well, okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm 100%.
Anyways, I digress. O-Dog's in here working out, so if you guys hear some banging, that's why.
Yep, that's why.
We're starting to get back into off-season mode here, with some of the boys coming back, so we're gonna have some more activity in the gym, which is cool. Did a little bit of remodeling the other day.
Yeah, it's good.
Nice.
Changing it up.
I got one thing. I just want to talk about the membership thing again because we got a couple more people that are hopping in, and I want people to know what it's for. So for people, we've had a couple consult calls. That's mostly what it's for, I guess, is people being able to ask us questions because we can't get to all the questions people ask. So people that are members online, you've done a bunch of consults with parents, I answer a bunch of emails from kids a lot. Actually, a lot of kids are sending email questions in.
Yep.
So that's mostly what that membership piece is for. Obviously, you get the videos in the website and all that stuff, but it's going to end up mostly being for that overall. So people that want to join, it's just $10 a month, and you can get a whole bunch of stuff that we have listed on the website if you're interested in doing that. I have one other thing I want to talk about before we get into the topic, unless you want to go first.
Go, bud.
Actually, no, you go first. You go first.
Why?
Mine's going to kind of lead into it after.
Oh, okay. Interesting enough, I told you what I wanted to talk about a little bit yesterday.
You did.
And we had the class in there, and I asked these kids yesterday. I said, "You guys, I don't do this often to you, but you can ask me any question.
Yeah.
Any question, go ahead." And the first one was, how was your weekend? And I explained why it was a great weekend. So that was that. I said, that's all you got? So that's your only question that you ever have?
Yeah.
And then one kid asked, what's my favorite book to read? And I said it was GSP, The Way of the Fight. And I explained why it was so good. And they heard me say that before. And then then the one kid asked, what book would you recommend for us to read? And I really like the question. 14, 13-year-old kids, I think, 12-year-old kids.
Yeah, they'd be grade 7s. So 12.
So I said the GSP book again would be the greatest book for you to read, because it's all about mindset, and fighting is not just about physical fights, it's about mindset. And he takes you through that mindset, but just taking it through life, and it's applicable for anything that you do. And I highly recommend it. Having said all that stuff, earlier in the morning, I was listening to a podcast. Oh, and by the way, you got to show me how to download podcasts on my phone. I know that sounds ridiculous.
Download them?
Yeah, so when I drive, I can put it down. I can put it on there. I don't know how to do it.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
You don't use Apple. Use Apple Podcast, not Apple Music.
But I need someone to show me so I can, how to do it.
Yeah, I digress.
So anyways, I was listening to a podcast that George St. Pierre was on, and he always says so many good things. So many good things.
French accent.
What his French accent, but he is so smart.
He is, man.
But actually, this morning I was finishing up that podcast, and they said, saying, "What are you afraid of? Like, what was your fear?" And one of his fears was getting embarrassed, right? And he said, but one of the interesting things was, a lot of people say in his fights that he never. And then his second biggest fear was getting brain damage. That's why he kind of stopped. He didn't want to take it. So a lot of people said, well, you didn't really get a lot in your tough. Because you usually dominated. You took a few punches. He goes, yeah. He goes, that's not it though. He goes, it's the everyday, the practice that gets there. It takes its toll. Those punches in the head over and over and over and over again. And anyways, he should be a philosopher, man. The guy's so smart. Yeah. Anyways, yesterday when I was listening, what I really liked, it's a different version of I guess saying something a different way, but I really liked it. The question was, who's the best fighter of all time? Who's the best fighter of all time? Would you be in the mix? And that type of thing. And he go, and who are your favorite fighters? So he went through with favorite fighters, and he said at the time that he was in MMA, he was like one of the best. He goes, but the best fighters in the world have not been born yet. He said, like, yes, he was better than the original MMA guys, and by a long shot. And so the guys today are better than what they were. He goes, but the best fighters in the world have not even been born yet. And he said the reason is because, like for his example, is that he was how did he say it? He was able to stand on the shoulders of giants, and I really like that term. And he uses it not only for fighting; he uses it in life, right? He goes, you can succeed a lot more in life by looking through the past and finding. It's not just about because we have information. So we're taking the right information from the right people. So he was able to say that, through fighting and his coaches and the knowledge and all that stuff that he has, he's been able to stand on the shoulders of giants to make himself that much better. So I really enjoyed that. So, you can really learn from the past people, because you're eliminating, if people start, let's say they were at MMA and they started, you're not starting from a blank sheet. You can start, like, what did George St. Pierre do for all these years? What was his mindset and all that stuff? And you're eliminating years and years and years of trial and effort. Yeah. And it's the same thing in hockey. That's why I think it's so important that you always surround yourself with the right people, around people that care, people that have knowledge, people that have done something. And if that's your starting point, you're way ahead of a lot of people. Yeah, I know you got something to add.
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing I said yesterday when we were talking about it. It's really cool that if you read a book, like, so let's say you find some person you really like to listen to and they're a psychologist. So one that we talk about is Jordan Peterson a lot. We love reading this guy and listening to him talk and whatever. So if I go read his book, he's been a psychologist for 30 years. Yeah. Plus. Yeah. He's been studying this stuff for 30 whatever years.
And counseling people,
practical experience, all this kind of stuff. Everything that he's learned and accrued over 30 years, he puts in a book. I just get to read the book. Yep. So it's not, it doesn't make me an expert in psychology, but I get a huge leapfrog of where my baseline of knowledge is now. I know much more about psychology having read that. Yep. and it took him 30 years to figure all that stuff out, or to put all those thoughts together, or to build his philosophy of what he thinks. And I just get to have it. I can read it in a couple days. You know, and that's what's even more interesting about podcast stuff now is you can, because a lot more people can listen than can read. So if you can just listen to somebody talk, you can take all the expertise they have, and you're gonna get a huge chunk of that. You're not gonna necessarily understand it to full depth or anything like that, but you can get a good foundation of knowledge in a lot of different things just from listening and reading people, and you get to skip so many steps. So to what GSP was saying, his point, like you get to jump. It's like what people sometimes will talk about. I've heard them talk about this in bodybuilding, or they talk about it in terms of the players of today versus the players of before. It's like, well, Wayne Gretzky playing in today's game wouldn't be even close. And that's true, because the guys are better skaters, they're stronger, they're fat, everything about them is better. I don't like the question because it's a relative comparison. Like, so if Wayne Gretzky was born today, he probably would have done exactly the same level of work that everyone else is doing, and he's Wayne Gretzky, so he would still be awesome.
His brain was off the charts.
Right? But in terms of just their physical attributes or their skills on the ice, every decade, every few years, whatever, there's a turn up, and the baseline level of skill for everybody is so much higher. Like, you get a fourth line guy in today's NHL,
oh my God,
would be a first, second line guy 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever, right? So fourth line guy is a fantastic skater. Fourth line guy 30 years ago, 40 years ago would be a guy that just throws punches or sticks guys or whatever.
But his
right?
game's just changed so
it's just
much,
different, right? So it's a really interesting point.
And then if you flip the page, a lot of guys in today's age couldn't play in the 70s, 80s, and 90s because it was such a different game. Like you didn't have to, or you had to be. The toughness issue was a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
So if you ever just all skill, then you wouldn't be able to play in that era either. So it cancels each other out.
Well, yeah. Well, think about if you put
timing's everything.
Put Connor McDavid in the 1980s when you can have Big Bubba dig his stick into you and just hang on to you,
or just come across Scott Stevens, just say, "Well, enough of this shit."
Yeah, exactly.
Gonna come across the ice, I'm gonna just take your head off.
Yeah. So it's really different, but you can. Just the kind of greater point of that is you can skip so many steps in the learning curve if you're just willing to do that. Like I had this conversation with my brother before about, like, he's a guy that likes to figure things out on his own. Like, he doesn't want to be told what to do. He doesn't want to have somebody like say, well, this works, this works, this works. Like, he wants a little bit of that, but then he wants to figure it out on his own. We were talking about it before. It's like, man, if you just listen to other people that have already done it, you can skip so many steps. You know, and there's obviously something to be said for doing the work and figuring things out on your own. I'm not saying never do that, but just you get a huge leap.
So having said that, I just had a phone call this morning with someone that asked me about their son. Said, like, how do we? I gotta get him faster. I think I gotta get him faster. So the common thing. Well, he said, do you have anything extra that I could do on the ice? He was seeing someone, but that's not working out. I said, well, number one, that's not where you're gonna make your biggest gains right now. You're going to make it off the ice. Learn how to hip hinge, learn how to load properly, learn how to get stronger, learn how to have the intent of pushing fast. I said that'll translate onto the ice. And without that knowledge of someone else saying that, he goes, okay, it actually kind of makes sense. I said, yeah, we could do lessons. I said, for the next 64 days straight, you're going to have to mortgage your house.
Yeah.
And the bang for your buck is not going to be there because I don't even know if you hip hinges properly. Right. So that little bit of knowledge saved him a lot of money and is going to actually benefit them so much more. But it's like, listen to people that have actually done something and have something that of value,
for sure,
and you're ahead of the game. You don't have to make a mistake, because the alternative was could have spent a lot of summer doing something that maybe wasn't proven to be beneficial.
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's a great point. For sure.
You know, so
this is starting to get towards the topic here, but what else you got before we go there?
I really wanted to say this. So my son came back a week and a couple days ago, and so we were talking about, like, he was telling me about all the things that he does away from the rink with his buddies, and there's like a couple interesting things here. It's like, as a dad's perspective, like I said to you the other day, it's interesting to hear like his choice of music. For me, like, looking at a dad, I go, okay, he's the same guy as me, but he's different. So it's just interesting. And then what he does off the ice with his friends and stuff. So just seeing him away for the last 8 months, like, how does he handle it? Right. It's a very interesting thing. So anyways, he said him and Cam and Bonesy and some of the guys like to go out and play pool a lot. They go and play pool a lot. So he's telling me all the little chirps and the side bets they make and how they talk to each other, and it's absolutely hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I said on Friday night, I said, "Well, you want to go play pool tomorrow? Go shoot some pool." And for me, it's just I like spending time with them now, and it's a good way to just do something, and we shoot the shit at the same time. So that's that. We were out playing pool, talking. We sat there, and I was asking him a question because he scored a goal in the playoffs the other day. I don't know if this is going to be too long of a story, but he scored a goal in the playoffs the other day, and in the picture, there's a couple fans that are like out of their seats, and the expression on their face is like they're so happy, like from the core, they're so happy, and for me, it confuses me. Okay, so I've never understood the role of a fan. I understand people can cheer and stuff, but to actually be emotionally involved and jump out of your seats and like to see the expression on their face, to wear a jersey and all that kind of stuff, it's like it's totally beyond me. I just never got it, and I don't know if I ever will totally get it. But I was asking Charlie the question because before the game there was a person that was talking to me who was a fan, and they said, "Hey, I hope Charlie ends up signing my jersey today." He goes, and I didn't really understand what he was saying, but the bottom line was he, for the last 9 or 13 years, one of the two, he's had every player that's ever played for the Guelph Storm sign it. He goes, "There's hardly any room left, and I hope he understands the significance of it." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool. I don't really understand why you would do that." So I sat down with Charlie and I said, "I got a question for you, kid." I said, like, "What's your perception of fans?" And he goes, "I know what you're going to say, Dad, because you don't understand fans. Fans are," he goes, so how, I want you to think about this. If you just moved to Windsor for the first time and you're 20 years old and you didn't really have friends, you didn't have anything to do, you started going to the Spitfire games. You actually enjoyed the team and followed the team, you got into it, and you actually cared about them winning. He goes, "There's nothing wrong with that." I go, "No, there's nothing wrong with it." I said, "I just don't understand it." He goes, "Well, maybe you would if you wouldn't." But he goes, "But the bottom line is, Dad, is that the fans, without the fans, it would suck." He goes, like, "I actually really, really appreciate the fans." He goes, "because they bring energy and they actually care and all that kind of stuff." So anyways, my point was to him is like, I'm so glad you said that to me, because I showed him a picture of these people and I said, look at the emotion that they have. He goes, "Yeah, they're pumped." He goes, "Guelph is the best." He goes, "They actually care that we win or we lose." And I'm like, I'm so happy you said that, because I've seen so many kids come out after a game and you got someone waiting and they got like a book like this, right? And they're standing there like this, and you see someone come out and they don't even look at them and they just sign like they're big wheels and they walk away. Like, come on, man. Right? Whereas like they're investing in you. And so him and I were just talking a little bit about it. And I said, when I see people that are fans like that and they've been there for 10, 15, 20 years, even though I'd never understand that because I'm on the other side of it. I said, like, I don't know if you understand, if you take a family out, how much money that is, that they invest game after game after game, and they buy a jersey and they actually care about you. He goes, no, I get it. So I said, well, I'm happy that you said that. So I asked, I said, did COVID with not having fans not have anything to do with it? He goes, no. He goes, it reiterated that if you don't have really good fans, that you're just playing minor hockey. He goes, it's almost the same. He says, really good minor hockey, but he goes, the fans are everything. He goes, they're everything. And he goes, I'll always take time to appreciate them. And I'm like, because I never coached him on that. I always coached him to be good to people. But anyways, I was really proud of him for that, because I really do hope more people can appreciate them, not to go crazy. But, he goes, so like the guy at the pool hall, he goes, pool hall or bowling, one of the two, the bowling alley. He gives them free bowling. Goes, come on in. So don't ever forget it.
Yeah, it
right?
ties. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Like, ties right back into that. How you treat people matters. Like, all that kind of stuff matters a lot.
Yeah.
And if you ever can have enough self-awareness to step outside yourself and look at people that are in that position, the way he explained it to you there, it's a bang on, man. It's like you go there. We talk about it when we go to the games all the time. We look around, we're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what is everyone doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're here because you got a kid on the team.
Yeah.
I'm here because I have a investment in a kid that's on the team.
Yeah.
I can appreciate hockey. I like watching hockey, but buying a jersey, going to every game, like, It's like, this is crazy. There's 6,000 people here.
Yeah.
It's like, what are they doing? You know?
Yeah.
And it's amazing that is what they choose to spend their time and money on, like as a family or as a couple or whatever. That's what they're choosing to do with their time, and they're picking to come and do that as opposed to going to the movies or opposed to doing whatever else they would have done with that extra money that they have. And it's important that people are aware of that and they notice that, especially the kids, man, because you start to get, like you said, on your high horse about being the big wheel. Yeah. And it's easy to start dismissing the only reason you're a big wheel is because somebody else cares about that.
Right. I was saying that to him. I said, I don't know, because the perspective of like this couple or this family that come once in a while, but people that come over and over and over, they're choosing to take hard-earned money to come and watch and like actually cheer for you. And you winning and losing is important to them. I said, so like your performance actually does matter. It's more than just about you.
Well, because without them, there's no
nothing
OHL,
exciting about
there's no NHL,
no college.
Who's paying?
That's right.
Who's paying the salary?
That's right.
Who's paying for the organization? Who's paying for the song and dance and the announcer between whistles? Who's doing all that? It's because people go to watch, you know? And so the fact that people are finding it interesting and choosing to go spend their money on it is the whole reason that you have a job. Yeah. You know, so it really it sounds, you know, like cliche. People thank the fans and thank this and what, but it is actually true. If people don't watch, there's nothing there. It doesn't matter. Yeah, and interesting enough, he was saying to me that the culture of the organization is leans towards that. Like they put emphasis on fan appreciation. So they do little things that for sure.
That,
a lot of
they
them
get in the kid's head to say like thank you, and which is great, right? Like these
totally.
are all the principles I want my kid to learn.
Well, even in junior with us, like we're in smaller towns, and it's a huge deal for smaller towns. They do their jersey auctions and skate with the team, and all their engagement initiatives as an organization, and it's great, and it should be like that. And you shouldn't take it. You shouldn't find it to be a pain in the ass. Like we used to do the Christmas parades and all this kind of stuff where we'd have our little floaty and going through. So it's important because people actually care, you know. So it's a good reminder for the kids listening that are coming up and whatever, to make sure you're taking time and you're not getting on your high horse too much, whether it's with teachers at school or fans or whoever, right? It plays right into that message that we always talk about.
It's even the kids that come like in most arenas. When the players go from their bench to their dressing room in and out, there's usually a handful of kids, both home and away, that have their hands out and they just want to get a high five. If you start paying attention to this, watch how many guys could not bother giving a kid a high five.
For sure, man.
Can you imagine?
I remember.
So even if you're in your rival city and a kid's got his hand out, of course, what's so hard about that? I mean, they're still fans and you're making them feel good about it, right? And you know, the thing is, if you have big goals of getting somewhere someday, then people remember that. Mm-hmm. And people also remember, like, the big picture of things is that you never know who's watching. It could be, you know, you're trying to set up a business after hockey or during hockey, or there's a deal going through and you happen to high five that kid and that dad was watching and he owns a company that you want to buy or be part of.
And maybe his dad owns the bowling alley.
Right. That's right.
You know,
that's right.
So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit to the initial thing we were talking about, kind of branching off the GSP thing, but I wanted to touch one thing before we do that. I think I mentioned last episode or whatever, I talk with the kids a lot about nutrition stuff now. Yeah. And you've heard me do it a few times. So I give the kids shit if they're not, you know, starting to think more about what they're eating. So, and I'm not like crazy about it or anything, but just like constantly reminding them. You know, you said like throw them out at the wall, hopefully something sticks, like that kind of thing. So the one of the big things I notice with a lot of these kids, when I ask them like, what'd you eat today? How's your eating today? Whatever. And I make them tell me what their meals were. And
some answers are hilarious.
Some answers are hilarious.
French fries and
grilled cheese. It's
grilled cheese.
Yeah. And it's like, so I'm thinking about it. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because a lot of people that listen to this are parents. Yeah. And most of the kids that I'm talking to when they're 14 or 15 or even 16, even older, a lot of kids even older, like they're not making their own food. They don't have control over what they're eating. Yeah. So here I am, you know, trying to tell them, hey, like you should be prioritizing protein at every meal and giving them some information on what they should be eating. But they go home and they don't make dinner. They don't go grocery shopping. They don't do
limiting factors, right?
Right. So they don't have a lot of control a lot of the time. Yeah. So I wanted to leave this with parents, and this is going to start to branch into the topic a little bit today, is it's very important that you also start to take some of this stuff serious. And it's not just because they're an athlete, it's just better as a human being. Mm-hmm. If you're eating well most of the time.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, by default, because I had the Italian family, we always had like the 4-course dinner.
Yeah.
Which was, so there was always protein.
You guys ever have pasta?
Not just pasta.
No, I know. I'm
So
saying in your courses, your Italians,
yeah,
you
yeah,
had
we always
every
had
time?
pasta. Yeah, we always had pasta every time, right?
I know.
So it was like, yeah, but a lot of kids will have pasta and it's like just pasta. It's like, what's for dinner tonight? Pasta. So for me, there was always meat, there was always veggie, there was always some kind of carb, whether potatoes, pasta, whatever.
Oh.
So for parents, and it can be tough if you don't know, and it can also be more expensive too. So I'm not trying to be insensitive to that, but when you're making dinner, I'm starting to talk to the kids about making sure that the meals are balanced, and balanced meaning you have each of the macronutrients, protein, carb, fat, at the table. So with the kids, I give them more specific information, but generally I say make sure you prioritize protein at every meal. That is huge, man. That is so important. When they're trying to grow and get bigger and stronger and faster, whatever, you have to have enough protein. It's so important. So one takeaway I want to leave with the parents is to start to make sure they're getting protein at every meal. So if they, like, some of them tell me they don't even eat breakfast, and it's like, okay, I'm not hungry in the morning. Okay, you'll be hungry if you start eating in the morning. So do it and make sure that they have some protein when they're eating. Even if they're having a bowl of cereal, put protein powder in the milk. Make it like a protein shake. That's the milk that's on the cereal. Like, make sure that they're prioritizing that at every meal, or try to help them along. That's one very easy thing that you can do as a mom and dad. If you're the one that's making their lunch, like, make sure they have a protein source in with their food, because then they start to get used to eating that way. And then in the absence of that, they're going to notice that it's not there. So it was just one thing I wanted to give for parents to help kind of push along the track for kids that are trying to develop away from the rink, and something they don't have a lot of control over, because you're mom and dad, you're the one making their food. If you can just do that, like, you can ignore all the other nutrition information I've said. If you can do one thing for them, is make sure they have protein at every meal. Because when the kids come in here and I ask them, what did you eat today? A lot of times it's blank. They're missing at the meals, and they didn't make their food. They're not the ones that made what they're eating. So I wanted to give that as just a piece of advice for parents. One thing you can do that really will make an impact is start to make sure that they have protein, something that contains protein at every meal to a good degree. So that's it.
And as far as that goes, can I just pipe in for just a couple? I think so when we're dealing with, like, again, you can make more excuses than a pregnant nun. I get that. It could be finances, it could be time, it could be all these different things, but there are strategies to do it. Like, for example, in our house, we do, I have a freaking huge tray. And we like to do this. We chop up pounds of meat. Like, let's say it's chicken or fish, whatever, pounds. And is that expensive at first? Yeah. And then we do pounds of vegetables and chop, put some seasoning on it, throw in the oven. And then I just put them into containers for the week for me. I'm done. I don't eat crazy when I do that. I eat really good. I'm never full. I'm never hungry, and I feel great, right? And I'm getting quality food. You can do that with your kids. Real simple. Now they just have to go in the morning, grab their 2 or 3 buckets for the day. It's so simple. Now, here's where some people say, well, I don't have time. It's actually less time than you're going to have all week. I don't like leftovers. Well, shut up, kid. You know what I mean? So you don't like leftovers. I don't like cooking for you every 5 seconds. So eat this shit. You're going to be healthy, right? But maybe that's the trade-off, is not, they don't want to eat that all the time, but it's a way to do it. We just got an air fryer for the first time. My wife started using it the other day, and another strategy, real quick, just put some spice or whatever on it. It's real good. And then if money's an issue, one of the things that you should just start firing in your budget is eggs and beans. Right? Lots of eggs, because it's good quality protein. You get some fat in it. Fairly inexpensive. Can get up really in the morning.
Inexpensive,
yeah. So it's a really good alternative where you can, crack, boil, whatever. I do that several times in the morning when I'm so, like I talked to you about yesterday. You're giving me shit about not sleeping enough. I said, well, it's really hard when it's like Christmas Day every day. I love getting up and getting going, so I get anxious, like excited to get up and get going. So to the point where I just want to get out of the house and come here. But some days, if I don't have my meals or I need something extra, actually very often I'll just crack 4 eggs in a pan. I don't even make an omelet, just 4 eggs. Sometimes it is an omelet, but 4 eggs. Takes me 2 to 3 minutes, put it in a container, I'm gone. It's zero time whatsoever to eat healthy, right? Because the alternative is coming here, or being a kid or being an adult You go somewhere and you start to get hungry. That's where things fall apart.
Yeah.
So that's just a couple strategies, eggs, and then you can make, my wife makes, like I could do it too, but she just happens to do this for me. Very nice of her. She's concerned about my health, which I love. And she'll make me like a chickpea salad with lots of veggies cut up and a nice balsamic and olive oil or balsamic oil, or what's it called? Balsamic
Vinegar.
and avocado oil or something
Yeah.
like that. And it's light, it's good, healthy food, great, cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that the preparing in advance thing is huge
Yeah.
because it's like you want to make the good choice the easy choice. So a lot of times the kids they're telling me what they well, I just grabbed a granola bar, or I
Yeah.
just grabbed the fruit snack thing, or I just grabbed this, or I just grabbed that. Well, if you have a container that you can just grab,
Yeah.
that's the easy thing now,
Yeah.
right? So that's one really good point. The other thing too is if you don't like to cook or you don't know how to cook, because some people it's intimidating if you're
Yeah.
not somebody who cooks a lot. Like number one, freaking learn how to cook, man. Like it's not like it's that crazy. But if you can't or don't want to or don't have time, whatever, you can still go buy like the processed versions of protein
Yeah.
if you need to. Like that's better than not having it.
Or you can go to the grocery store and get one of those rotisserie chickens,
right?
and,
Exactly.
You get actually some really good things.
So there's options that are available that
Yeah.
are cheap enough. You don't have to cook. You don't have to spend 3 hours in the kitchen. You don't even have to spend 1 hour in the kitchen. Like even if you go buy chicken fingers and they eat chicken fingers at dinner, it's better to that than no protein.
Yep.
So it's like just make sure that there's something there. That's one really like low hanging thing you can do to help the kids out, and you can start to teach them about that, because oftentimes when they're hungry they just want to grab something. I'm just going to grab a muffin because it's already right there.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you already have a container of chicken and they can grab a piece of chicken, they will do that because now it's ready already. You know?
Yeah.
And you can start to teach them to value eating well, you know, and you'll start to teach yourself to value eating well if you're somebody who doesn't do that, or as a family you've never thought of that or whatever. Because I say that to the kids a lot. I'm going to explain this information to you guys, then you're going to go home to your house, where if your parents don't know it or don't care about it or whatever, now you're fighting against the system of not caring about the thing you care about. You know? So it's very important that you start to get on the same page about that kind of stuff. So it's just a couple those are great tips about stuff you can do. Cost effective too.
And then again, back to what we've said so many times, I think when people choose to make excuses, the other thing is it's not all about this is the best meal I've ever had and it's maximum mouth pleasure and like or I'm not eating it. It's not that. You'll get used, not that it's bad. I love eating healthy, but you get used to it, and actually the junk or the stuff that isn't good for you actually starts to taste bad. Like one thing that we did, and I actually enjoy this more, because I do like to eat pasta, like not all the time, but every now and then I like to have take the spaghetti, roll it on a fork. It's the texture,
mouthfeel.
It's just so good, right? But we were doing taking zucchinis and just shredding them. And you just put it in the hot water for a couple seconds. The sauce on it, the spaghetti sauce on top of it will be heated up enough too. I'm being honest with you. I'd rather have zucchini, like shredded zucchini, like that looks like spaghetti, over pasta. And I'm being honest.
Well, that's a good point too.
Being honest.
I've
being honest.
I've said that to my mom sometimes too. One thing I really like is crunch.
Yeah.
It's not having a chip; it's the crunch.
Crunch,
You know. So if I can get like a rice cake, will do it for me, for example, because it crunches. It's the texture in the mouth that is what feels good. So for you, it's like if you like the experience of twisting the noodles and how it feels in your mouth when there's noodles, like that kind of thing, that's a huge component of eating. So if you can make a upgraded choice, I've talked about that before too. It's like you don't need to eat the bag of Miss Vicky's. Maybe you can get whatever, but or you can get like those veggie straw things. If you just want the crunch, it still tastes good. Still tastes good. But if you just want a crunch, that's not the same as having you want to have chips necessarily, right? So if you can be specific about what you want in your brain as well, then you can make some better choices.
But it's so funny, the default mode of where people go, and I'm not like it's just around me. This is what you hear, right? Well, I'm not going to change my whole life. Because it goes to negative, right? Like, I'm not going to make that kind of change. It's like, well, okay, but like take the spaghetti versus the zucchini, shredded zucchini. It's like, well, I'm not going I'm not going to go nuts about eating. It's like, well, you're not going nuts.
Yeah.
You're just making a change, or
Yeah.
you're try it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go to default negative mode all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
I just know for a fact, because I eat a lot and I work out a lot and I move whatever. I feel so much better when I go consistent, good, healthy eating, not eating like a slob. It just feels better. So I just kind of just want to feel better more than not.
Yeah.
So you make a few choices, and those choices aren't going to be like you're giving up the whole
Yeah.
your whole life. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I know it can be hard for parents too, because you're really set when you're an adult. You're set in your ways a lot, so it's harder to make changes as an adult, which is fine. But it's not really about you now. It's like you're trying to help set your kids up and be a good example. Hopefully, you're trying to do that.
Yeah.
And this is just it's a very easy thing. So back to my original point was just protein at every meal. Easy thing you can do, whether it's one of the examples you gave, you can buy things cheap, cheap sources. Even if it's a cheap source, it doesn't have to be a grass-fed, grass-finished, whatever crap. You don't have to do any of that.
We're being goofs.
Just get some protein in the diet, man. Like start with that. Like that's make sure they have protein in every meal. Make sure you have protein in every meal, honestly. But if you're not going to, at least make sure that they do, and that'll go a huge, like such a long way in the gym when they're training through the summer in terms of their growth and all that kind of stuff. It's really helpful.
Yeah, 100%.
That leads me into the topic today. So I wanted to talk about, unless you had something else.
No, I'm good.
Good. People talk about two things. Less is more. Less is more. And that is appropriate for a lot of reasons. And then sometimes more is more. So I want to talk about when less is more and when more is more. So what I kind of mean by that is a lot of times people so a lot of times people will go overkill on things thinking that they're benefiting themselves when they're not. It's actually to their detriment to keep going more and more. And then other times they won't do enough of the thing that they either slightly value or think that they should be doing. They don't do enough of it, and more of that would actually be better. So just two like quick examples to show the contrast is one with working out.
Yeah.
A lot of times like more isn't always better, or skating, like not just like the more ice you can get, the better.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, sleeping. More sleeping is better. Like more sleeping is better. Like if you don't get enough of the sleep, it's always better for you to get more of the sleep that you need, right? So those are just two examples to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. Does that make kind of sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I'm sure 93.5% of our listeners will get it too.
Yeah, so 93.5%.
So there's going to be a few that goes, what?
Yeah, no, so we'll see where we end up going with this. I want to talk about it first in terms of obvious is going to be just with training stuff. So the caveat I want to put on this one is a lot of times, I've talked about this before too, is kids think that they're very nervous about doing too much.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times they'll be like, oh, this is a little bit sore, I'm not going to work out today or whatever. So I need to put a disclaimer on this is, given that you're working out hard and you're working out enough to begin with, then the less is more strategy applies. If you're someone who doesn't know how to work hard yet, or you haven't done a ton of volume on anything yet, or you don't know how to push yourself yet, your intensity isn't high, all that stuff, then this won't apply, because now you're in the more is more category where it's like you don't even know how to hit baseline yet. But once you hit your baseline of you're working really hard, it's very important that you don't go overboard, because we were talking with a trainer on the phone the other day who's with Montreal Canadiens organization, and we were talking about this exact thing. It's like at a certain point, it's going to be overkill. So
what his term was is there's a cost for everything you do.
For sure. Yeah, there is a cost. So we were talking about off-season training with some of our guys, and I have them lined up for 6 workouts a week with 1 off day. But layered on top of that, they're going to be skating as well. Yeah. So it's like at a certain point, is that going to be too much? And that's something that we kind of have to monitor going through the off-season to make sure that they're not going to the point where they can't recover. Because one of the things we talked about last week or a couple weeks ago, kids going through the playoffs or kids that are playing a ton of hockey in the season, you're working out every day, right? Because you're doing a skate or you're doing a workout or you're doing a whatever every day. It's impossible to recover. You can't. So
season's a beatdown.
So now you're just trying to keep yourself, you're trying to minimize how beat down you are. Yeah. That's
try not to regress too much.
Right. So you don't want to recreate that when you're starting to go through off-season stuff or whatever. When you're training in the gym, you don't want to go so hard that you can't recover and get the benefit of the work that you did.
Yeah.
So a lot of kids will think about, I need to be in the gym more, or whatever the case is. When kids are younger, they don't think about it as much because they don't realize the value of the gym yet.
Yeah.
But for some of the guys, it's like you have to pull them back. Like, hey man, you gotta relax. So you really need to understand the balance between what is enough and what is too much when you're training off ice in the gym. Is that anything to add on that?
No.
So I'm relating this to the off ice as well. So now or on ice as well, when we talk about on ice training, this is really where it shows, for me, this is a really good example of everyone always thinks more is better when you're going on the ice. And I know you can go on a rip on this one for a long time, but kids will think, I need to be on the ice as much as possible. I need to do every skate possible. I need to do as much skating as I can, all that kind of stuff. And it ends up being overkill where they start to take away from the gains that they're actually getting. So whether it's with spring hockey, whether it's with extra practices, extra private lessons, hockey class at school, pick up with your buddies, whatever the thing is, it's not always more is better. And it actually ends up hurting you over the long run if you just keep doing more and more and more all the time.
Yeah, and it hurts you physically, but it also hurts you mentally. So my biggest thing with that is, and that's actually with our conversation with the strength coach the other day, says is what I always say all the time. It's like, you want to go into basically every session, especially on the ice, hungry, right? So if you're a kid or player and you think you have to do more all the time, it's like, okay, so if you skate 7 days a week, I guarantee you there's going to be a couple of those skates where you're just there just because you committed to it or because you think you have to. Is your mindset into it? Are you actually there to actually get better, or are you just going through the skate to get reps? Because if you're just going to do something to get some reps and you're not really into it, I wouldn't call that a quality workout, right? And the thing is when your brain goes, everything goes. There's a saying that goes, fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're walking around fatigued or in a fog or half-assed, then the gains will not be there. They can't be there. So I would rather take someone on the ice once a week or twice a week where they can give me quality ice, and so they and not take away from the gym sessions, rather than just doing a whole bunch of stuff. And then at the end of the summer, because the thing is like, if you go from season to off ice and you do this for year after year, like I could see it in my son. Like it was so interesting to watch the difference of youth hockey to now this is a business. He's been invited to go to a couple of things. He goes, no, I'm done. I need to rest and get this off my plate for a bit. I need to just cool the jets, man. Right? Absolutely. And it's a very intelligent thing to do, because you know what? It's missing, not skating for 3-4 weeks is not gonna hurt him. He's been doing it for 16, 17 years.
Oh
right?
Yeah. And that's when they got back for Charlie and Seabass. I'm gonna do the same with the guys that are still in playoffs right now. It's like, you're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
And by not doing anything, what that means is I'm letting them establish a new routine. So they're getting into their workout times and they're getting into the new flow of being back in a different schedule. But everything is like 50% tops.
Yeah. It's just to keep the blood moving. It's just to
keep, stay active, keep moving, but take a break, man.
Yeah.
And
but you can see mentally they're getting into it though.
Right.
Because they're getting hungry to get going. And that's that's 100% what you want.
Because they're motivated, right? Yes. It's like you take a dog to the park and he sees something he wants to run at, and you just hang on to him, until you let him go. Yeah. And then he's going after it, right? And one of the things that people talk about a lot, there's that 10,000 hours rule that floats around. I want to touch on that too. 10,000 hours, like that's fine, but it depends on what the quality of the 10,000 hours is.
Yeah, right? that's the intentional practice, deliberate practice.
And people forget that part. Like they think just you need to shoot your pucks, you need to do your skating, you need to do to get to 10,000 hours or whatever. That's like a good baseline metric that people use. Yeah. And it's like, but it depends on what the hours constant, like what are we doing during those hours, Yeah. And if you got a kid that's checked out, mailing it in, not paying attention, you're not just going to default get better all the time. Like when you might get some of that, when the younger you are, the easier it is for that default get better to happen. But over time, you start to get bored. You don't care. You don't value the workout or the skate or whatever, So I want you to talk to, or touch on a little bit with kind of for the parents, what is, or even for coaches too, that think they need to do a million practices a week and never stop skating and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
What would you say to them about that kind of mentality? Because I see it most with that. We were talking about it this morning, how people value the skates. Like, I need to skate. He's got to be doing this. He needs to do this. He needs to
Well,
whatever. So just touch on the
let me
mentality.
start with that conversation I had this morning, and then kind of steer me the right direction after. So because it had a lot in common with what you were just talking about. So I had that call this morning. It was an email first, and then I made a phone call. And this is not, I'm not carving the guy. We had a nice conversation. So the conversation was like, he went to a junior camp, and I think his speed needs to be better. And could we get him on the ice a little bit more and all that stuff? So I said, no, what you need to do is you actually need to fix this. Like, how do we fix this? It stops, starts, everything. He goes, I just think it could be better. So I said, well, I don't think the ice is going to do the trick. It's going to cost you tons of money. Number one, bang for your buck is going to be very small. And I don't know if he knows how to hip hinge. I don't know if he knows how to load his legs properly. I don't know if he knows how to decelerate properly and stuff. So I said, your best bang for the buck is going to be in the gym. It's going to be doing, learning how to hip hinge properly, picking something off the ground, making sure your ass gets down, your heels are flat, your ankle flexions, your shoulders back. That's important. It's when we do a squat, it's intentionally pushing that really quickly. That's going to force your brain to go on the ice. When you go on the ice, you're just going to develop power. You have 200 pounds on your back and you can squat it up. Then when you're skating and you're pushing, it's going to be a lot lighter. Like, it's by default. That's power. Your speed will increase. More importantly, when you ask about stops and starts, doing the eccentric phases of lifts, or for people that don't really know what that means, is the slow, like if I'm doing a squat, it's coming down slowly, is you're building that deceleration speed so that when you are changing directions or you're stopping or you're starting, that's the deceleration speed that gives you power. So you're quicker that way. So we can go on the ice and we can do it. And I don't even see his mechanics. He's got all these pants on, and or we could come in the gym and fix it and get a real bang for your buck in multiple different ways. So yes, it sounds counterintuitive. A lot of times, you need to be a better skater. How do I do that? You do it in the gym. Really? Yeah, actually, really. Because we can take once we get your mechanics in the gym and all that stuff proper, then it'll transform on the ice. And I said, if you don't believe me, just see what I do with Charlie. I go to the gym. So we can do private lessons all day skating. I said, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And then the other thing would be is spend time on the track or hills doing short sprints, so that and plyo jumps, uphill plyo jumps and stuff, because that imitates skating more than, like, I think it's a 90% correlation. So that's pretty good. You're building strength and form at the same time. So he goes, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Thanks for telling me. But more on the ice is not necessarily going to help you on the ice.
No.
It's getting off. And then and then during those workouts, like now when you take good quality gym work and sprints and stuff like that, and you come on the ice, apply what you've learned. So that you've been working on getting low and hard pushes, or quick feet, or change of directions. Like, apply those principles to the ice and the mechanics, right? You can start paying a little bit more attention, because now your body will actually probably do the mechanics properly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the intention part is really important, because you can do all the work and make the improvements, whatever. But if you're not always thinking, the reason I'm doing this is to improve X on the ice, then you can go out there and forget. You'll just stand up again and not remember, like, oh yeah, we worked about being low and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I want you to talk more about the mindset for parents, like a lot, especially the younger too. Yeah. It's like the whether it's the spring hockey or the morning lessons or the whatever. So you want to rip on that for a bit.
Yeah. So I got like different views on it. Like, I mix views.
Yeah.
First thing is, and it kind of goes back to what we're saying about more is more. Like, you need to be hungry. So the first thing is like, I just see so many people. The parents bother me. It's bothersome. It's so bothersome, because parents are thinking that they're making good decisions for their kids, and the bottom line is like what is the decision? What's your intent with this? First of all, do you want him to be a better player, or does he want to? Do you want him to get to junior and get a scholarship, or is that a goal that he set? And these little things that you do, they can help. Like, okay, so let's just be honest. If a kid that's 4, 5, 10, 12 is on the ice more than the kid their age doing all kinds of skills and stuff like that. Yes, they probably are going to be. It's probably going to be advantageous to basic skill. Okay, like probably
For sure. Yeah.
right. Doing a lot of reps. You shoot more pucks on the ice, you're probably going to be better. You do a lot of more tight turns, probably going to be better. And that's fine. So a little bit, I don't have a problem with that. Is when you get obsessive about it, it's not helping. What I mean by that is a kid, and the problem with most of this stuff is because it's structured. It's structured, and when a kid has to go and listen to someone and tell them what to do, okay, for today we're going to do this, this, and this, like, go have fun. You could just go rent. Like I always say this. You're doing private lessons like at a young age, you could probably get a lot better outcomes if you had 6 to 10 dads say, hey, let's just go buy some ice at 6 o'clock in the morning if the kids want to do it, and just go play. Go play, go do your own drills if you want, or do whatever. Just go piss around for a while. You're going to get better results, in my opinion. Because you don't need someone telling you exact moves. Because the problem with that, the more of that, here's what I think the negative is. So many kids rely on someone telling them what to do all the time that they can't think for their own. I say this in the gym all the time, right? That's why we say bring your notebooks, figure it out so you know how to work out.
Yep.
So if you get on the ice and every time you have a problem, you have to turn to someone or instruction needs to come from someone, that's not good. So then when this transfers into your play, it doesn't make you a better hockey player. There's a lot of skilled guys. I've seen a dime a dozen, more than a dime a dozen, guys that have really good stick handling skills. Although you set patterns up when you're 8, 10, 12 years old that you might have done this so many times that it actually, if you don't have a really good instructor, it might be actually the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
Where someone showed me a video the other day of some guy teaching, I think what do you call it? The stop deke. The stop. You guys saw this, right?
Yeah,
so I saw that and I
deke.
go, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, honest to God.
Yeah.
So let's practice this for 2 months. Like, let's get really good at the stop deke. Well, it's not actually a thing. Right? It's not actually a thing, or it's a thing that you could, like, there's movements that you're going to by default make if you're a good player. But so if I learn that pattern overall, I get my head taken off, or I get, it doesn't work in hockey. You need to learn how to play hockey. So you can actually build habits that are actually detrimental. And you thought you did yourself a good thing and you invested, $8,000 in the last couple of years. My kids got really good skills around pylons and all that stuff, but can't play a game. Seen that a million times.
Yeah.
So the creativity comes out doing it on your own and have a little bit of coaching and everything. Overcoaching is a thing. So that's my thought on that, is like, definitely too much. Definitely don't need it when you're young. The only time that you need actual teaching is when you get, just before junior and stuff, you want to tweak a shot that you're actually got a pretty good shot at. Now let's learn how to hide the puck. Let's learn how to tweak this so it's good, or there's different types of tweaks that we can make. Okay, that a little bit of skating as you get older. Yeah, let's fix this. But all of these lessons over and over, it's a waste of time. I'm in the business. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, stop.
Yeah, and this is where the less is more.
Way less.
Starts to come
way
in,
less
right?
is way more in this.
Yeah, right. Because
sorry, and the last thing is, go play badminton. I know that sounds ridiculous. Go play badminton or squash or volleyball or catch or something like that. You're going to be a better athlete. And all these other games, you figure things out because no one's coaching you all the time. But you just figure how to do things, right? And that's what hockey is. I mean, it's so funny, man. I've watched people for years and years and years, and take my advice or not. Standing on the shoulders of giants. I actually know something.
Mm-hmm.
Stop doing that. If you're asking me the question, stop doing that and do this. And it's like you're talking to parents and they go, nah, you're hiding something. And I go, just look what I do with my kid.
Yeah, and that's where the less is more thing plays in, right? Because when the kids are young, like the mom and dad, they make the decisions. So it's like it doesn't end up mattering like long term. We talk about this all the time. It doesn't end up mattering later on. Like you can be on the ice every single day. It doesn't matter. Your kid's gonna end up hating hockey, or they're gonna not necessarily learn how to play well in the game, whatever. So it's like some of it is fine, but it doesn't have to be your whole life every day, all day, every morning before you go to work, and then after school, and then at school, and all that kind of stuff. It's too much. It doesn't actually make a difference.
Yeah.
And then once you get older, it's the same philosophy. The less is more, because it'll start to take away from gains you're making or gains you want to make away from your on ice training. So once you hit that age where you said, I can actually start to teach you, whatever, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah. And a little earlier, but like depending on the player. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to throw numbers out.
There's certain things you can do.
it's not going to always just be the more skating you do, the better skater you're going to be.
Nope.
It's not how it works.
No.
So for a lot of these kids, like one of the guys, two of the kids that we have in here that are really good players, they're in playoffs right now, and they still have hockey class.
Yeah.
At
Too
school,
much.
right? And then on top of hockey class, they have gym class.
Oh.
So they're doing a skate that they have to participate in for their class. Then they go to gym class and they play dodgeball for 45 minutes, which
Yeah.
you're moving, man. Like
Yeah.
it's not nothing.
Yeah, dodgeball, yeah.
And then they have to go to their practice at night, whatever. Or they have a game that night, whatever it is. And you're playing every other day and all this kind of stuff. And it's
And
like
everybody wants you to be at your best.
right. So it's like
It should
so
be.
I told him I told the kid I was talking to him about it last week. I was like, this is why it becomes really important that you pick your spots when
Yep.
you're doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So if you're prioritizing your on ice performance, that means when you're not on the ice or when you're not doing an intentional workout in the gym, you're not using resources.
Yeah.
Because it just makes the recovery process that much more difficult and that much longer.
Yeah.
So as you start to get into those older age ranges now, and I'd say the same thing with Charlie and Seabass when they're in here. It's like, you guys, the more you do outside of what the plan is,
Yeah.
the more you're taking away from the plan.
Yeah.
So if you're starting to get into that age range where you're starting to be in junior and you really need to make serious gains in your off season each year that you progress from like 15, 16 to 20, 22, you need to have a good thought out plan that's intentional, and you need to stick to that plan, meaning you're not layering extra things on top. Your buddies say, hey, come play pickup with us at 10 tonight.
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, I have to go to sleep, you know? So it's not just always that's where that more is not always better thing comes in. And it's the same thing with the gym like we were talking about. So do you have anything else to add on that before I change it up here?
I think we're good. I could go forever on this stuff.
Because I want to flip it now and talk about, in terms of less is more, again, assuming that you're working hard when you're doing your work and you have a good plan set up and whatever. In terms of training off ice and on ice, less is more. It's not always more is better. And I really want parents to listen to that, man, because the kids, they don't even know what this means yet, what I'm talking about, but you will be able to understand. If you have a 12-year-old or whatever, and you're making him do 6 skates a week plus spring hockey tournaments plus whatever, all hockey all the time, then play road hockey when you're at home and all this kind of stuff. It's like, you have to be able to recognize that it's not better to do that, you know, and that might be a something you haven't heard before, because everyone is telling you left and right, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to go to this tournament and play in this. And like, we still have kids in here that this week they're gone to whatever spring tournament for the week, and now they're missing their skill work, they're missing their workouts, missing school, whatever, because they're
no, school's the most important thing though. That's what everyone says, but it's not true.
Yeah. But they're going on
it's true once in a while.
Yeah. So ODog just was saying that what if the kid is the one that's saying, I want to go do this, I want to go do that, whatever. That's different. Like the kid should be the one driving the ship on what they want to be doing.
Yes.
But as mom and dad, it's still part of your responsibility, because assuming you have a kid that really loves hockey, he's going to want to do everything.
Yeah. So I got the answer to that.
Yeah.
Not the answer. My answer to that is because I just had one yesterday with Charlie, and I could tell you how life went with us. Is he loves hockey. He lives at this place, man. Like he what else do you want? Well, he loves it. How come I can't play in a spring tournament? Well, if I go with the philosophy, well, he loves hockey, I should bring him, then that's all I'll be doing is living in a rink. Yeah. So I had to sit there and say, okay, listen, son, this is what's good for you, and this is what's not. You don't need that stuff. And I'm giving the Coles Notes version here. Here's why trust me. And he goes, okay. And then he felt like he was getting screwed. He felt like I was screwing him. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of it, he said, thank you. Yeah. He goes, all these guys, for all the reasons they went and played spring hockey and did all this other shit, that didn't work out for them anyways. I said, I know, I told you, blah, blah, blah.
But to what ODog was saying, though, so if you can go do a spring tournament if you want, like, it's fine. But it's the intention about it, again, right? So you had a call with the dad a few weeks ago, and it was like, I don't want to cost my kid an opportunity or whatever. And it's like, I can sympathize with that, especially if you're a parent and you don't really know, and everyone's telling you like, this is the big thing you need to do and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But just know there's no decision that's so consequential that it's going to cost your kid. If your kid's good, he's good, man. Like there's nothing you're going to do to mess it up. Yeah. Right. So I wanted to switch to the other side of that now, of when doing more is actually better. because a lot of it's usually misplaced. Like people will think doing more ice is better, doing more workouts is better, go is always better. And then they neglect the things where actually doing more would be better. And for this stuff, for me, it's about getting into good habits in your daily life when you're not doing anything hockey.
Yeah.
Whether that's recovery stuff or whether that's mental diet or whether that's your actual diet or whatever. This is where more is actually better. So things like getting your kid into good eating habits or valuing good eating habits. And again, like I touched on earlier, this comes down to you having good habits or valuing having a good structure to your day in terms of what you're eating and stuff like that.
Yep.
Going to bed. Like that's something where it's like, if you do more of that, that's actually going to help you. The more of that you do, the better that is for you, you know? And what I find is a lot of kids, they neglect the things where, and parents too, they're pay no attention to the things that if you do more of that, it will actually help you. And they think if you do more of this stuff, it will help you. You know, they have like the opposite mentality. So I don't know if you want to throw a couple thoughts on that one.
Totally agree. One of the things that I think I got a couple thoughts here. I might be off track.
It's okay.
One of the things is spend more time. More is more of the people that you hang out with.
Yes,
I think it's huge.
I didn't even write that down.
Dude, I think it's huge. Of
course,
I think it's one of the biggest things that that is going to help you with your future. It's being around people that are there to not there to make you better, but that by default make you better because
they're
they're
aligned.
Good people.
Yeah.
You have good intentions. They can say no. That's they like if at the end of the day if we say let's go and piss around here and have a few beers or vape something or whatever, you got that guy pulling you back saying don't be an idiot or just the right type of people that think positive, or like we said earlier about the fans. It's like if you're around people that treat people properly and you're around just good people all the time, then your outcomes are going to be a lot better. So I don't think you can ever get enough of that. You know, it's that it's like when you could hear 1,000 yeses, if you hear one no, it'll knock a guy right on their ass.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Who you hang out with is you show me who you hang out with, I'll tell you the type of person you are, right? So positive people, active people, people that eat, like all those things. I think it's huge. So
Sorry,
you go ahead.
Cut you off for a second. I didn't even write that down. That was a freaking awesome one. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you can have an infinite good environment, infinite amount of time in a good environment. More of that will always be a better thing.
It's strong as steel, man.
It's never going to cost you because you're around good people. So yeah, we had just one quick example yesterday where we were on the ice last night, and between when we have like our 10-minute while the Zamboni's going on, everybody's trying to like wolf down food around dinner time.
Yeah.
Everyone that's in there has their meal prepared, whatever. So a couple of the newer guys that are working here come in. So I got my giant popcorn bowl of a mountain of food. Yeah. And another guy's got his freaking. So it's all the same stuff. It's like protein, veggies, carb, good, clean, made it at home, like that Everybody kind of stuff. Like that, Everybody eats like that. So the couple guys that are new, it was such an interesting thing because we're sitting there wolfing down a couple bites between the sessions, and one of the newer guys goes, "Man, I gotta get my meal right. I gotta get my meal prep game 100%. Going." It's like, yeah, that's because you're here. Yep. That is because you're in an environment where that is what baseline is when you're here.
If we had a box of donuts, that's what we'd be eating.
Exactly. Seriously. And if not everybody's pulling out their freaking Tupperware of good food, this guy doesn't have the weird one. He doesn't have that thought, right? Like the new guy that comes in here doesn't have that thought. You know, and I was talking to another guy that's been working here for a bit, and he was talking to me a few weeks ago saying like a couple of years ago, like I let myself go in a sense for like 6 months and I put on a bunch of weight and whatever. And he's like, I will never do that again, whatever. And I was just like asking, I was like, just curious, like what were the reasons that happened for you? Yeah. And he was saying one of the big things was environment. Like he's around his buddies or he works here. He comes in here and sees like every time he comes in here, somebody's in a puddle on the ground because they just did a hard workout. Yeah. Every time he comes in here, somebody's pulling a Tupperware out. Yeah. It's lively in here. We got tunes bumping. It's high energy. It's like, this is where you want to be, you know? And if you're somebody who comes into that and you can't help but start to make better decisions because your environment is pulling you into those better decisions, right? Yeah. The more time you can spend in that kind of environment, the better. There's no less is more in that sense.
So just on that note, just being a dad, even probably being a coach, but you can't do this with every player you teach. But so I told you this before. I raised my son by playing catch with him. He got home. We played catch 20 times.
Yeah, yeah.
We probably played 10 hours of catch in the last
You were
week.
doing,
Easy,
doing it in here the
easy,
other day.
easy.
Yeah.
What do we do when we play catch?
Shoot the shit.
We talk. So if I was to sit down and say, "Hey, we grab a pizza, whatever," and sit down and say, "So how's hockey going? Who got any girls going? What this?" He'd be like, eh. As soon as I throw a ball or go play pool with him the other day, and we're just being us, he tells me everything, and I don't do it to tell everything, but I'm able to put the shit in his head that he needs to hear. Not need to hear, but that comes out, I guess. So like one of the things we were talking about yesterday is as we were talking, he was just telling me about a season, some of the boys, and we're laughing, and and I like that one that hits the pocket like that. Dad, that's sick sound. I love that. I go, I know it's the best. Eh? Throw a knuckleball. He goes, knuckleball. Yeah. So everything's loose.
Yeah.
Talking about everything that he wants to talk about, and what we're talking about actually is his dreams.
Yeah.
And when you're around good people, the environment, you're talking about the future. You're talking about where you're going, not where you've been. Well, a little bit about where you've been, but you're not talking about stuff that doesn't matter. So we're talking about his future all day for hours, playing pool, playing catch. One of the things I saw a little, not a disbelief in himself, but there was a one part of his career or of his year this year that he mentioned that he goes, I don't think some of the guys would think I'm that type of player. And I said, okay, so stop. And we're still playing catch. Let's think about this. And I navigate him through. He goes, yeah, you're right, Dad. So I said, okay, don't let anything ever get in your head that you're not able to do that anymore. You're a young kid, blah 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 blah. And that was a productive playing catch. Yeah. But that's what I want for me too. Like I don't want people telling me, yeah, your business, in a couple of years, things are going to change and life's going to suck. No, I want to be with you and all the guys here saying like, okay, I see something going on here. Let's fix this. Let's make this better. You come in here with a pile of energy saying, you know what? I think that we could take it from here to here. I said, that's what I need because I'm 53 years old, man. And I have vision and goals and I want to work. But that new, fresh idea, it's like, oh, okay, new energy, man. This is great. Yeah. Right?
For sure, man.
Environment is everything.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm really glad that you brought that up. That was a really good point. And now anything that I say, anything I say is not as good as that.
Yeah, sure.
But the other thing I want to go on for a bit is it kind of ends up playing into the environment as well because to your point of spending as much time as possible, I was telling the kids when we're talking about their training stuff that they do, you're only in here for an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 if you're really getting after it the one day. You might do a skate, you might do a workout.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time to ruin your progress or undo the work you just did or whatever. Yeah. So in terms of the more is more type thing, this means like when you go home, make sure that you're doing things that are productive towards what your goal ends up being, right? So you talk with Charlie, you go home and you guys are playing catch, doing whatever. What he's not doing is playing video games for 8 hours. Yeah. What he's not doing is staying up till 2:00.
No.
Riding around Essex, Ontario with his backpack to whatever skate park. Like this isn't what he's doing, right?
That's right.
So touching on that more, what people they don't value it enough because it's not something that's like culturally valuable, but go to bed, man. Mm-hmm. Go to bed, and you don't have to do it at 8:30 because I've mentioned this question or this topic before. For guys that are hockey players, a lot of times as you start to get older, your games are going to be at like 7. So like you don't want to be starting to fall asleep when it's 7:00 if that's normally when you play your games. Yeah. So it can be 10, it can be 11 if it has to be. That's fine. But get to bed, dude, and sleep enough time. Yeah. Like spend enough time sleeping.
And the nights that you can get to bed early because you get some sleep debt.
Exactly. You can end up catching up on some of that, right? Yeah. But a lot of kids and parents, they don't really see that. They think like if you go home and watch a movie for 2 hours before you go to bed, like you're relaxing and you're recovering and whatever. And no, you're not. You're staying up. You're stimulating your brain when you should be starting to wind down to go to bed. And that's something where it's more is more again, man. Like you have to start to value what you're doing when you're not at the rink. Yeah. And it's just so important, man. And it's something that nobody ever talks about. Like I remember waking up some mornings, like when I was in high school, where I would have had practice till whatever time. Then I had to drive home from Chatham, whatever. So I'd get to bed at like 12:31 and then I got to get up at 7 to go to school. And I would wake up and just be like,
just burning the candle.
Oh my God. And not ever once thinking or being told, hey, that's actually a problem.
Yeah.
Like that's actually not optimal for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
If you could learn to value that early on,
Yeah.
get more of that, it's just going to be more growth. It's just going to be actual results on what you're doing. It's going to be better in terms of the environment that you're in, because you're not staying up playing the video games with your buddies or whatever. Like all that stuff. And it's not that you can never do those things, like I'm saying, but more is better in that sense. More of the good stuff, more of getting to bed on time is actually something that's really going to help your progress over the long haul. And it's funny because you're not going to see, it's like the environment thing too. You don't get to see it today. You know, you're not going to get to see, oh yeah, this is really helping me.
The only thing you see with environment, though, is, I'll be honest with you, is a lot of people say that when they're around this place, they'll say, "I had a good time. It was different," or "Every time I'm there, I feel good." Like that part, there's a feeling that actually feels better.
Yeah.
Than being dragged down by negative people. So immediately it's just a feel good, but long term it's like you become like a trap door. Like
Exactly.
You're solid, man. You know.
Yeah, you might not see the
principles and
progress.
values and this and that I do and I don't. Period.
Exactly. You might not.
Right.
That's what I mean. You might not see the progress, and sleep is like that too. If you,
Yeah.
because you go to bed on time,
Yeah.
there's no like measurable effect that you're gonna get. So a lot of kids they'll work out in the gym for a couple of months, and then they'll look in the mirror and be like, oh, like I look like I'm getting
100%.
bigger, like whatever. It's like, yeah, did you know that that's because of sleep? Did you know that sleep did that? Did you know that eating properly is what did that?
Yeah.
It wasn't actually the workout.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the workout is what it tears you down.
Yeah.
You know, it's the sleep, it's the eating properly. That's what gets you going up, right? So in terms of that, so the sleep is one, and then the last one I'll finish off on is with the food thing again. It's like if you don't eat well, man, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
No.
It's got to more good food is always better.
Yeah.
It's never gonna be worse for you to have a more dialed in diet. It's only gonna equate to feeling better, looking better, performing better. Mentally, you'll feel better. All that kind of stuff. It's always going to be better. And then my last point was just going to be the mental diet, which kind of plays into your environment thing a bit too. It's like, what are you putting in your brain when you're not here? More good stuff is always better.
Yeah.
Always. Doesn't matter if it's a book, if it's a podcast, the movie that you watch. If it's something that's aligning you with what you want to get to, it's better. If it's something that isn't, it's worse. And so more of that is always going to be better. More good stuff in your brain is always going to be better. That was my last thought on that.
Yeah, so I just got a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short.
Sure.
More action and less talk. There's many examples of that, but like you'll see guys on the ice and it's yap, 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 yap. Like, I'll kick your ass. I'll do this. I'll do this. Well, why don't you just do it? Just do it. Like, shut the pie hole and just do it. Right. So, and actually listen and absorb information. So more of that. And it's even, you can take that in workouts. Yeah, I'm going to work out so hard. I'm going to do this. Like, don't talk about it, just do stuff. And if you take that advice, that goes a long way.
Awesome.
More mobility. Like when you're thinking about fitness, do more mobility than you think is necessary. And I'm not talking stretching and stuff. I'm talking about exercises that are just giving you a different range of motion, your hips, your shoulders, your groins, your ankles, to make sure that, preventing injuries. So injury prevention, it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but it's great. And then just the last thing, what you kind of touched on, was the mental side. That's a place where, we say it all the time, is what percentage of the game is mental. There's a big chunk of it anyways. And I would dare say that most people don't tap into 1 to 2% of mental toughness or mental ability. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but something that, so the thing is, when I talk to people, most of the time, when someone needs to talk to me, it's not because they're having a great day, or no, they tell me about good stuff. Like, they'll tell me that, but if I get a phone call that we need to talk, or, hey, can I talk to you for a minute, because something's going south. And that's including my son, and even kids that I've talked to on their team, is they go to that way. And the first thing is what they do is they kind of sit in it, right? So I'm not scoring. I need to score. Oh man, like, I'm just having a hard time scoring. Like, you're giving yourself negative feedback, which is, it's okay. Just recognize it. But the alternative to that is visualizing the opposite. See yourself scoring. And I know people are like, oh, okay, this feel good shit, but it's actually true. You're not going to hurt yourself seeing yourself succeeding all the time, right? It's just not going to hurt you. And, so that's, I got a couple of people out of funks like that. I said, like, start with seeing it and feeling it and hearing it. Like, close your eyes and do it. I'm not talking for 24 hours a day, but spend time doing it. So even your off season, right? It's an exercise in mental toughness. You're defaulting to seeing yourself succeed. So see yourself, like, it could be, it's, what are we, May right now? See yourself with your jersey on, playing the arena, everything about it, and just play a great game. It's better than sitting there saying, I need to score this year. Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope I have a good year this year. I get a couple of new guys drafted. Holy shit, I hope they don't take my spot. That's all shit that's going to knock you down, right? See the things that you've done really, really well, plant them there, because that's that wall of fame you should have for yourself. Like, everybody should have this. It's really important. I learned that lesson a while ago, as I was kind of like, one of my friends actually were talking on the phone the other day. He was sitting in my office and asking me questions about my future and where I'm going with this. And I go, yeah, sometimes I struggle though. I still struggle because this is the way I grew up, right? Struggled with having like really good success and stuff. And he's looking at me going, yeah, He goes, can I point something out to you? I go, yeah, for sure. He goes, look at your walls. So I'm looking. He goes, look at the pictures. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, PowerTech. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't get here, all this stuff. Look at the pictures of your success wall. He goes, and look at that every day. You look at that every day, and then you don't have to think about it, right? And I just think everybody should have, you don't have that one, but you have something. You can have it written down. You can have pictures. You can have it in your head. That success wall that reminds you that you're really good, right? And you need to see yourself like that, so you're not doubting yourself, right? Like, Owen, when you were drafted, like a second overall in the OHL, I mean, that's a success. There's a reason that you got that, right? So, but doubt can take that and flip it the other side if you let all the outside noise get in. So, there's a reason I was that, and I continue to do my work and doing everything I'm supposed to do. Visualize my success. Why not? Why not? Half the battle of getting somewhere is seeing where you're going and just doing the work. And there's going to be the obstacles. And there's going to be people telling you that you can't, but it's like, what you see here is going to make all the difference in the world. If you don't see it, then why would anyone else, right? And the more you see it, the more you're going to believe it. That's getting really weird now, but it's the truth.
Yeah, it's true, man. Whatever.
Yeah, you see it, you believe it. Like,
yeah, and
so, that's it.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'm just going to say about it, just generally, do the things that you feel like you need to do more of, you probably should be doing less of, assuming that it's quality and intentional. The things that you think you should be doing or you don't pay attention to or that you think don't matter or whatever, you need to do more of those things. And I think with most of the stuff that we talked about, like if you talk about like sleep, nutrition, mobility, mental diet, your environment, if I took a survey of all the kids that I train that are in that 14 to 20 range, they're not picking those things as the thing that they need to do more of.
Well, and usually it's your weakness.
Yeah.
That's the one I left out, is like, do more of your weaknesses, less on your strength. Yes, if you got a great shot, continue to shoot pucks, make it more accurate, hide the puck and all that stuff. But what are your actual weaknesses? Because your strengths are fun, your weaknesses suck. So I was actually going to start today with this, but I'm going to end it on this. For me, is my whole life, my weakness was taking preventative care of my body. I brush my teeth every day, but several times, but like preventative care. So, and to this day, like when I go, I got to work out harder. That's always work out harder. Like, it's a dumb answer because all I need to do is X amount of reps, do the damage and recover, right? So my point to this was always be strong. That was my main thing, is be strong and, be able to lift things and scare boyfriends away and stuff, right? At the cost of what? I've always had problems with, like, start getting too active on the ice and stuff. The hip, the lower back, the shoulders, the elbow, and the wrists. That's a lot. Yeah. Right? So now I've been doing some, like, I've been doing so much better at the mobility, but remember I told you, I said my shoulder, like, I don't know, so my left arm grip strength is going to shit. Like, it's getting bad. Like to the point where I know I'm smart enough to say, do unilateral work so that this isn't getting stronger, but my left arm is starting to atrophy. That's a word, actually.
Yeah, it is a word.
It needs to get small.
It's a good word.
But it's starting to, like, so I start doing, if I do a farmer's carry, the weight on my left is like significant less than there. I do cleans or I do deadlifts. So my left, my grip just goes. So I'm lifting like this.
Yeah.
So I know, okay, so you dummy. you dummy, right? I spent so much time being strong to the point where I can't be as strong as I should be because I didn't take the time to work on little weaknesses that I knew I need to do.
Yeah.
My posture, I don't know if it's coming from my neck. I know it's partially from my shoulder, but you know what I'm doing as a dummy? Still lifting heavy.
Yeah.
So I'm doing shoulders and chest yesterday, legs, deadlifts the other day. And I'm like, oh God, that's like the signals are there. Okay, you're an idiot. So just keep being an idiot, you idiot.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
Like I should actually take the time, change a few things and just like actually get this out. Maybe it's not repairable, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But no feeling in my fingers anymore because I was stupid.
Yeah.
It's affecting my shot on the ice. I swear to God, I'm shooting now. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, and this is why you start to do this stuff now, because when you're young, you get away with it, right?
Yeah.
You feel like you're getting away with it. You feel like it doesn't matter and all that kind of stuff, but it actually does. So if you can get into whether it's a weakness thing or just the things that you don't pay attention to as much. So if you're mom and dad, good thing to talk to your kids about, like paying attention to the things that they don't pay attention to, which is all those soft things I talked about where you don't actually see the result right away. If you do your mobility routine right away, it's a very slow process. Like it's slow. If you work out as a kid for a couple weeks, you'll probably start to feel different and notice a difference. All this other stuff that's not like so sexy, you have to spend the time on that stuff, so you start to value that and spend more time on that kind of stuff that we talked about. And then where appropriate, you taper back on the things where you think you need to keep going more and more and more and more. You don't need to skate every day. You don't need to work out every single day. It doesn't have to be maximum output at all times, because that actually ends up costing you later, especially as you start to get older. It really starts to cost you. You can get away with it more when you're young, but as you start to get older, you've got to start to taper back on that. So that's hopefully that was somewhat helpful. That's all I got for today. Anything else for you?
No, I'm good. I spoke enough today.
Nice. Okay. We'll leave it there. See you guys next week.